There was blood splatter in his room.
Okay. Tell me where the blood splatter was in his room.
On his bed, on his floor.
This is Zaniah Jackson. On March 8th, 2014, after hearing a gunshot, she stepped out of the car, witnessing her mother's final moments. It was definitely a nightmare.
He took them to outside in this room.
Okay. Did somebody tell you that, or did you see that?
I see that. He just decided to kill my mother and his daughter.
If not for this beautiful and clever 6-year-old girl, this homicide could have remained a mystery. Zaniah kept herself hidden and definitely saw something she shouldn't have. This 6-year-old girl was the only living witness that could help solve this case.
Had my sleep on and waited like this so the stranger wouldn't see me.
The detectives with the Houston Police Department found themselves at a horrendous crime scene in response to the 911 call. They found the bodies of 2 women stacked on top of one another behind a dumpster, discarded like trash.
Location of the bodies was at Fisherman's Cove store. Behind this store, there's an abandoned hotel. I knew this case was going to be a tough one.
The Houston detectives identified the 2 bodies as Britney and her longtime girlfriend, Crystal. Their last moments had to have been beyond traumatizing.
Noticed that one was laying on her back and she had what was a severe gunshot wound to the right temple with an exit wound coming out from behind her left ear. The other was laying on her stomach with a sheet wrapped around the head. We saw that her eyes were swollen and bruised, and it was immediate that she'd been a victim of some kind of blunt force trauma. It was definitely our feeling that it was overkill.
It took somebody with such great force to break her neck with that blow that we knew it had to be anger. It had to be personal.
As they began working the crime scene, they found some of the most crucial details, highlighting the critical attributes of the double
It was
homicide.
a white and green wooden, looked like a shutter from the outside of a window.
There were bloodstains on the front of the shutter. During the scene investigation, we were also able to find some tire marks in the parking lot. The marks left behind had an extreme yaw mark, which is when a vehicle is at a high rate of speed and turns, and we could follow that out into the street. The lack of blood at the scene led us to believe that the bodies were dumped from another location.
But we didn't know where.
As the bodies were sent to be examined, the detectives made their way to the families of Britney and Crystal to break this heartbreaking
I knocked on the
news.
door. The first person I made contact with was Britney's great-grandmother.
My name?
Yes, Miss Ma'am.
My name is Annie Lee Cosby.
She confirmed that Britney was her great-granddaughter, and she had been missing for the last day or so. While we were there, Britney's father, James Cosby, who also resided with Mrs. Cosby, showed up.
What's going on?
Are you the father? Britney's dad?
Yes, yeah.
Britney's dead.
I just haven't seen him.
What happened?
That's what we're trying to find out.
Take a minute, but we're going to really need to talk to you so you can help us so we can find out who did this, okay? What kind of vehicle is it? It's a Kia. It's a Kia SUV.
Are they having any problems with anybody? Nothing like this. I mean, any bad relationship breaks up, anything like that you know that anybody that's mad at either one of them?
I mean, I don't know.
With no solid evidence, clues, or immediate leads on the case, the detectives first sat down with Crystal's parents, and they were taken aback to realize that Crystal's own father, Ivan Jackson, opposed her relationship with
So you never even would let Britney come in the house?
The only reason I let her come in the house, when she come in the house, she go sit right there where you sitting.
Okay.
And I didn't like that. I used to tell my daughter, I say, you ain't gay, you just clip in the head. You know, I used to tell her that all the time. Yeah. And you damn straight, because she just experimenting on something.
Mm-hmm.
She don't know what she get into.
He's well known as type of a fire and brimstone preacher, and he has a very staunch outlook on homosexuality.
I accepted it, but he couldn't. It brought friction between both of them.
Tell us a little bit about your daughter.
I didn't like her changing her sexual orientation, but it wasn't nothing I could do because she was grown. I told Crystal that lesbian stuff was take her out of here. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it.
Crystal's father, Ivan, told the detectives that Crystal and Britney came by to pick up Zaniah and to show them their new car that they bought together. But those plans did not go
Wanted me to
as
come
Crystal.
out to see her new car. Me being stubborn as I am, I wouldn't even get up out the chair.
So Crystal left with Britney and Zaniah. Crystal's mother made multiple attempts to contact them, but they never
My
answered.
husband said he was going to go to the house and see what was going on. And if Brittany did something to Crystal, he was going to do something to her. But I told him, no, leave the gun at home.
As time drags on and the days go by, the detectives eventually receive the autopsy report for the two girls, Britney and Crystal. So Crystal had been killed by a gunshot wound, while Britney had died as the result of blunt force trauma. And the detectives, of course, still suspected Ivan as one of their main suspects. However, when things started coming out and we got further details on the case, something came out that was way more twisted, setting the stage for new unexpected leads and shocking revelations. The bullet that struck Crystal was from a higher caliber than the gun that Ivan. And in an effort to clear his own name, Ivan allowed the detectives to interview Zaniah, who had been with Crystal and Britney on the days that they disappeared. Without delay, the detectives escorted 6-year-old Zaniah into an interview room, and the horrors that she's about to uncover.
You come sit right here for me? You like to color? Zaniah, what is the first thing you do when you get to school?
Eat breakfast.
Tell me everything that happened from that morning to the time you went to sleep.
The morning when I was getting ready for school at nighttime, my mama was in the car, me and her. My mama said, "Stay in the car," and I stayed in the car. So I was taking my mom's own off.
The information that they obtained from Zaniah during the interview was in bits and pieces, and it was kind of hard to put together. They didn't think she fully grasped what had happened that morning until she described the encounter that she had with the suspect.
I heard something, so I thought it was a stranger. So I just sit it back. I just had my seatbelt on. I waited like this so the stranger wouldn't see me.
Britney, Crystal, and Zaniah used to stay at the Cosby residence with James and Annie. And if there was a stranger that had entered the Crosby house that morning, why did James and Annie not report it during their interviews? Detective Kitchens, a rookie handling his first homicide case, was positive that whatever Zaniah had witnessed was not just a figment of her imagination. They brought James Cosby in for questioning, who was the only other person in the house that morning.
Hey, last you saw Britney was Wednesday night?
No.
Thursday morning.
Yeah.
What time did Crystal ready?
The same time they usually leave every morning. It was like just a normal morning. Nothing was out of the ordinary.
Another unsolved mystery was, why did Crystal and Britney leave and not take Zaniah to school that morning? And it seemed like James Cosby did not have the answer to this either.
That's the one thing that's out of the order.
I was trying to figure it out.
That's because if normally they would take her to school, but yet they left her there that morning. No, man, I know you're doing the best you can. And as things come up, you know you got my number, so call anytime.
The detective spent hours trying to get information out of James, but he would not budge. He claimed that he had nothing to do with the unaliving of Britney and Crystal. With no solid evidence, they had to let James go. But they knew James was literally hiding something. As the investigation progressed on, the detectives unearthed more evidence that reignited their hopes of finding who done this to Britney and Crystal. There's CCTV footage that shows the girls driving their vehicle on the night that they disappeared.
The girls had just purchased their first vehicle, which was a 2006 Kia Sorento. We knew from what Mr. Cosby said they left around 7:30, 7:35 that morning. So we wanted to try to get any video that we could anywhere in that area showing that vehicle.
The CCTV footage was from a convenience store parking lot, but what they saw on the other side of town left the detectives stunned. It was neither Britney or Crystal in the driver's seat of the car. Behind the wheel of their brand new car was clearly someone else. It was a male based on the height and the build, but unfortunately the surveillance camera that captured the car was too far away to reveal exactly who it was. Definitely frustrating the detectives, but making them more determined to figure out who done this to Britney and Crystal. And they now are inching toward solving this case. Hundreds of grieving individuals in Houston got together for a large, very large statewide memorial for Britney and Crystal. And on that same day, Detectives Kitchen and his partner made a trip to the Cosby house. And they went to Britney's great grandmother, Annie Lee, who might be able to offer some additional information. And they find out that James Cosby is at a memorial vigil in honor of Britney and Crystal. And instead of meeting Annie Lee at the house, they were met by her cousin. Cora had been helping around the house for a few years and watching over Annie Lee that day. Hoping that she might have some information, the detectives questioned her and wondered if she had seen anything suspicious over the past week. She did hesitate for a minute. Her demeanor suggested that she had something significant to share as she closed the door and motioned the detectives to meet her in the carport alone. As they entered the carport, Detective Kitchens automatically pulled out his recorder so he could get anything that she said that was significant. What she said hinted at something way more dark than they could have ever imagined.
Looked around, I noticed that the carport was spotlessly clean, and I had never seen it clean before. Never. Even though I had my grandkids move trash out of there, it was always debris, something that needed to be cleaned up.
Her tone conveyed a mix of confusion and unease as she conveyed that something about the carport gave her unease and was not right. The way it had been cleaned up, and it had never been like that before. Detective Kitchen surveyed the carport and didn't see anything out of the ordinary until he took a deeper dive and looked closer. He found a small pile of bricks on the carport that looked out of the ordinary. This sinister act would change the course of the investigation forever.
Why would there be 5 bricks laying here in the carport? There's got to be a purpose for them being there. And what I saw just took my breath away. There was what appeared to be 4 to 5 drops of blood on the ground. I immediately began to look even closer at that point, which is when I noticed 2 more drops of blood up near the door facing. That led me to believe that we may be standing in our crime scene.
This had sent a chill and a revelation to the detectives as they are standing in what they believe is the crime scene. So Detective Kitchens and his partner arrived at the memorial and they placed James Cosby under arrest, and it completely shocked everyone in attendance. After taking James into custody, Detective Kitchens and Kilburn returned to the crime scene to gather more evidence and see if anything else is there. Once inside the home, Detective Kitchens pulled out his UV light to see if he could find anything, blood or anything else. What he ends up finding and seeing leaves him in complete disbelief. The evidence was evident. There was bloodstains on the carpet, stained on the couch.
Blood drops on the door jamb as you come into the house. Once we made entry into James's bedroom, we started finding blood drops and blood spatter everywhere we were looking. Once we processed the area, we were able to see how much was fluorescing, and to us it was bright like fireworks on the 4th of July. Whatever the bloodletting event was, quite a large amount of blood was spilled in that room.
The evidence that they had throughout the garage and the house gave them enough belief that they could confront James directly. Everything was falling into place, and it was now time to confront James about the tragic events and his involvement surrounding Britney and Crystal's deaths.
We're down here at this office. I have to do, I do this to everybody. I read what's called your advisory rights. Are you familiar with what that is? Yeah, Miranda rights.
I've been watching up TV shows, that they say Miranda rights. That means you under arrest.
The detectives found themselves getting frustrated. as the hours dragged on, with James's cold, unfiltered demeanor, with no emotion during questioning.
We were back at the house today.
Today?
Can you explain to me why or how in your room where you stay that carpet throughout that room and furniture throughout that room saturated with fresh blood? You've been in that room, sleeping in that room with your daughter's blood on the carpet.
I didn't know that it's like that. You say I'm.
You can't miss it.
I ain't seen no stain. I would see some stains. I would see some.
She had the supreme beat out of her. You explain that. You explain it. That's your daughter's head smashed in. Thrown away like a garbage. That's your daughter. This is your daughter's brains coming out of the hole in her head.
And James, you did it.
And you did
it.
This intense exchange lasted for hours, with James offering very little about his involvement.
8 points back to James Larry Cosby Jr. And you expect us to believe that James Larry Cosby Jr. don't know. You need to man up. Finish the sentence for me. I'm going to start a sentence. I want you to finish it.
What is it?
I did not do this because...
I'm not finishing now.
What are you going to tell us?
Not that.
Meanwhile, in the forensics lab, the experts worked relentlessly to examine everything from the crime scene, all the evidence. And guess what, guys? They matched the fingerprints found near the dumpster to no one other than James Cosby.
Can you explain to me how your print wound up over there where those bodies were recovered in Fort Bond?
My print was on what?
The scene.
Okay.
Tell me what's your thoughts?
I have none. I can't make sense of that.
This crime somehow originated at that house.
So what can you tell us about the house?
Nothing.
As the case kept going, this fingerprint only solidified James's guilt, and everything against him began to unravel.
What else we found on the scene? James Larry Cosby Jr.'s sheets wrapped around his daughter's head. And you expect us to believe that James Larry Cosby Jr. don't know.
That's the sheet I sleep on. Well, the sheet I used to sleep on.
You wrap her up because you couldn't stand to look at her face and see what was done?
Why did this happen?
I can't tell you why it happened.
His answers didn't make a lot of sense. He would not come clean, would not confess. He just never got past that breaking point.
Despite all this evidence, James would not confess, so the detectives could only charge him right now with tampering with evidence.
At the end of this investigation, we had collected 307 pieces of individual evidence. This was the most evidence that I'd collected for any crime scene that I'd worked up until that point. Once we were done with the investigation, it was plain to us that James Cosby committed these murders.
The detectives knew that the fingerprint would show he was probably at the scene, but could not directly tie him to the case. So they needed to figure out more evidence against him so he didn't get a short sentence. The pressure the detectives had on them to build a case against him was building rapidly, and time was ticking. Around this time, Ivan started making his way around the news stations, talking about his beloved daughter and the
that the truth would soon come out. I really wasn't afraid because I had not done anything. I hadn't committed a crime or anything. I carry a lot of guilt in me because the things I should have said to my daughter, I didn't say when I had the chance. Watching them put my baby in that vault and have to leave her at that cemetery was the hardest thing that ever happened to me.
And around that time, something started to click for the detectives. A chilling pattern had started to emerge, one that had been hidden in plain sight. With additional information uncovered, Zaniah's first interview began to make a lot more sense to the detectives now. The stranger that she had mentioned, someone that she did not know but was present during the time, was more than likely James Cosby. And James had recently returned to live with his family, making him a plausible match to the figure that Zaniah had described. And to try to uncover more, the detectives asked Ivan to bring Zaniah back to the station for a follow-up This time, their questions were tailored on specific details of what Zaniah may have seen or heard. Their goal was to make sure that Zaniah's evidence pieced together perfectly with the evidence they had uncovered.
Did you ever hear anything from his room?
A gunshot.
You heard a gunshot. Tell me how you know it was a gunshot.
Because he just, in his room, he just said, he took them to outside and just shoot them.
Okay, did somebody tell you that, or did you see that?
I see that.
And at that time, when Zaniah stepped out of the car, she more than likely wandered toward James's room. There, she probably stumbled upon the blood and evidence that she didn't even realize that she stumbled upon. And it was something far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. And I'm sure she didn't completely understand what she was stumbling upon, but maybe she can get it out with her words. In her young mind and forming the images of what she had discovered.
There was blood splatter in his room.
Okay, tell me where the blood splatter was in his room.
On his bed.
You saw it on his bed? Okay, did you see it anywhere else?
On his floor.
And some on his floor?
He just decided to kill my mother and his daughter.
Based on this new information provided by Zaniah, the detectives kind of pieced together what they think actually happened on that morning.
Took Zaniah, placed her into the car. At the same time, on the inside of the house, James Cosby and Britney Cosby became involved in a physical altercation, at which time James Cosby snapped and beat Britney to death. Crystal walked back into the house and was watching this take place and immediately ran out the side door to the back of the vehicle, which is where James Cosby, we believe, caught up with her and then shot her in the head.
Despite her age, from the very beginning, Zaniah Jackson had been the key to uncovering what actually happened that morning. This quiet, beautiful, and observant girl had direct knowledge that could place James Cosby directly at the scene. Zaniah was the only person that could seal James's fate and provide justice for her mothers, Britney and Crystal. A month after this tragic double homicide, the investigators make a discovery. They find Britney and abandoned in a parking lot. Inside the trunk, nestled in a corner, they also found a bullet. The detectives worked diligently to piece together what may have started the conflict. They think that what started it was the decision for Britney and Crystal to get a new car together. This act seemed to create tension in the whole family dynamic, and the detectives found out that in light of another discovery, Britney's grandma, Annie Lee Cosby, had just updated her will.
Changed her will and left everything to Britney because Britney was already taking care of everything while her dad was not present in the residence.
He had asked Annie to co-sign for a vehicle, and she'd refused. And then she turned around and co-signed a vehicle for Britney and Crystal. And it starts to paint a picture of jealousy, pure jealousy.
This discovery seemed to grapple the family dynamic. James, who thought that Annie might be in light of Britney and Crystal, and James was already dealing with feelings of inadequacy and exclusion, like he was left out of the family. His jealousy, with already having other underlying intentions, played a huge motivating role in this act.
Me and my wife and my church family, we have been praying for life without a possibility of parole instead of the death penalty, because killing him is not going to bring either one of them back. No matter what the situation was, they didn't deserve to die. It's been really tough, but on the same token, that it has made me much stronger, because I know I have a responsibility to do now, and that's raise my grandbaby.
After the case was closed, Ivan and his wife were granted full custody of Zaniah, giving her the stability and love that she so desperately needed. And Detective Kitchens, the cool thing with him is that he became her grandfather. He was the constant and the support.
It's a relief. What we did for those families.
Despite all the traumatic events that Zaniah faced in her childhood, she has grown up and became this beautiful teenage girl who has beat all the odds that were stacked against her.
What do you think you might want to do?
I want to be a lawyer.
What kind of lawyer?
I want to work with the family against the criminal.
What made you want to do that?
My mom.
So you want to be able to help other families the way attorneys helped yours?
Yeah, it's okay. Think about the bright side of it, you know? If your parent was killed, you are the reason that everybody can be happy because they have you. You're like the seed. Like if you cut down a tree, you're the seed that fell on the ground. So it just sprouts up and you look just like.
So do you think James's only motive behind this was jealousy? Or do you think he hated Britney and Crystal's lifestyle so much that he just could not let them live? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed the content, please give us a like and subscribe, share it out, do all the things if you can. Thank you guys for watching the whole video. Have a great day. Bye.